Hi there. Welcome to Have It All. I am your host and the creator, Anna K. Morris, and I'm thrilled that you're here because if you are here, it means that you're interested in having it all, or maybe you're curious about what I and my guests have to say about having it all. Can we? Do we know what it is that we want? And once we get it, are we wise enough to know that we have it? And are we worthy enough to hold on to it? That's what we'll be exploring on the podcast. I'm so happy you're here, and let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Have It All podcast. I am so very excited. I've been doing a lot of solo podcasts, so it's a real treat to not be alone, and I'm sure it's probably a treat for all of you. And listening, if you need a break from me, I'm going to be sharing the stage this afternoon with my friend Nina Lockwood, who we met so quickly and then have kind of reconnected. I guess it's been about 2 years, hasn't it?
I have no sense of time anymore, so probably something like that.
Yeah. So Nina, tell us a little bit about yourself. If you're watching the video version of this, which I hope people are, because your background says so much. And I would love it if you would share a little bit about what you're passionate about, because we had a conversation this morning that was so very juicy and so very just hitting the mark perfectly. So I'd love it in your words.
I wonder if we can recreate that.
Yeah, I bet you can.
So my background, let me see if I can shorten it so it doesn't take 20 minutes. I was originally trained as an artist, and then I became a psychotherapist and got disillusioned with that world because it basically posits that you're broken. And you need to be fixed either through talk therapy or drugs or some combination of the two.
Sure.
And I did a stint in the corporate world for a while, and that really wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting involved in energy medicine. So I actually have a background in psychotherapy and energy medicine and art. And they may sound like very disparate categories, but they actually all fit together because to me, we're not broken. We have some often serious misunderstandings about things, but we're not broken. We have everything we need inside us. And the coaching that I've been doing primarily is with people who are looking for the more part. You might say it that they're not so interested in accomplishment and achievement so much as meaning and purpose. And if you're really lucky, you get to combine the two.
Yeah.
So I find that using art and creativity are a wonderful way to really dig in to see what's going on inside you when words don't work anymore.
Yeah. I love what you were talking about this morning, and not to jump to something that I know you're offering, and we'll circle back to it in the end. But as you know, I teach journaling, and I can never remember, that's very right brain. No, it's right brain.
Can be. Well,
it's both.
They're somewhat of a shady deal here because when you're using the right side of your brain, you're also using some of the left side and vice versa. But you're right. It's mostly intellect when you're journaling.
Right. And what I teach people is to journal long enough that you get past the intellect to the art that you're talking about, to the creativity. And you are working with people on art journals.
Yes, I'm just starting to do that now.
So cool.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be your first student. When I saw your post about it, I was like, oh, please, put me on your list. Because after I journal, I was sharing, I'd go for a walk. Because there's still something, or there needs to be something, some kind of integration. What I'm really hearing in everything that you've shared in your background is that there has to be that right and left brain, that integration of it all in order to really land in our bodies fully.
I totally agree with that. Totally. And I think that for me, the whole creative process, actually, all of life is really an opportunity to see what life wants to do and move through us. And
Yeah.
we can't always figure that out and rarely figure it out in our heads. It really comes from a
Yeah.
deeper place in ourselves, a
Totally.
more soul-centered place, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And I think that we're channels all the time. We
Mm,
don't we don't make our thoughts come into our heads. We
yeah.
don't often know what the words are going to be when we open our mouths.
Yeah.
So many, and every artist that you've ever come across never says, I created this from scratch. It's all coming
Mm-hmm.
through us from a myriad of other sources. And that's the beauty of it. It takes a lot
Mm.
of pressure off if we realize, okay, I'm showing up. Who wants to play? Who's coming to the party?
Yes, yes, yes. It's reminding me of I can't remember the name of it now. Is it Big Magic? Uh,
Liz Gilbert?
Liz Gilbert.
Yeah.
That like it's like grabbing it. It's like a cloud floating by. I remember her using a reference of like a book. And she had this idea for, you know what I'm talking about?
Anne Patchett, yes, I
Yeah,
know.
and she had this idea for a book. Just for if you aren't familiar with this story, she had this idea for a book, and she didn't write it, and she didn't write it. And then somebody, and it was like very obscure, right? Like 18th century Brazil or something, like very, off brand for her. And then Anne Patchett wrote it, and she was like, "Oh, so and that will happen."
Yes, it's as though
Uh-huh.
there's another story too, and I think I'm not going to remember the rock and roll musician who this came to, but I love it. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, there was a story of this particular musician driving along and suddenly getting the lyrics
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
song, and he said something like, "Can't you see that I'm
I'm
driving?"
driving. I know this story too. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember it exactly, but yes, I remember that. Can't you see I'm driving?
And so his final word to whatever was speaking to him was,
Mhm.
"I'm not available right now, and if you can't
Yeah.
wait, give it to Leonard Cohen,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
who took years to write his music."
Well, it's funny though. You said something that's really I really want to go hit on. I'm not available right now. And that's something that I think a lot about, especially because I am a writer. And I'm really mindful of like where I'm saying that, where I'm saying that I'm available, but am I acting like I'm available? So I'm curious about that concept with your experience and your background of like saying when your client said they want more, and that disconnect of like the wanting more and the not being available for it.
Yeah, it's
Can you speak to?
very juicy.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm like, there's the show, everyone.
That's
We'll
right.
be on this for the rest of the time, I think.
Well, it's so we don't pay enough attention to that
Mhm.
gap between I really want this,
Yeah.
but there's some resistance that happens, right?
Right, 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 right,
And
right.
we don't often even know, except that if an idea comes into our head, we just immediately dismiss it. Oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, I shouldn't do that. Or I'm
Somebody
too,
else did that.
that's right. And it's already been done. So why bother?
Yeah.
Or it's not going to be good enough. And one thing that I found that's fascinating is a lot of professional women are very reluctant to be available because it's going into the unknown for them. And they are experts at strategizing and
Mm.
putting together plans and organizing and making things happen. So just being at the whim, if you will, of
Hmm.
the muse is like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not how I operate.
Which is really interesting. There's so much, I don't want to say noise, but like there's so much conversation right now. Let me say it better. Um, about leaning into our divine feminine, right? About really embracing. There's Nikki Agarwal who founded Tushy and Thinks, And Daybreaker, I've known the twins for a really long time when they had a pizza joint back in New York, like on the Upper East Side, like ages ago. But there's a term, it's soft power. And she's doing a lot of work around this concept. And Kate Northrup, who, you and I met at a retreat, and Kate was there, and this whole concept of soft power. And I think of it often because I work with my husband. And we have a design build company, and I can find the houses and have the ideas for the houses, but the execution, the actual work of it, I have zero. I'm not a contributor to that at all, right? And it makes me think frequently about, like, am I doing enough? Is it, how am I contributing? And I'm quick to remember that that's not my role in that company. And the more I lean into the masculine and the like getting it done part, it really never goes very well.
How interesting. Well, I think, at least the way I'm hearing you say it, is that you know what your skills are, your
Yeah.
skill set, and that's not one of them.
Oh, no.
So it's not that you're in any way not contributing. I mean, that sounds ludicrous to say, but
Yeah.
what I'm basically pointing to is that those masculine and feminine energies are meant to complement one another. So it's, especially if you're having two people that are very strong in the doing part
Yeah.
and in their own specific field. And if somebody else is not as good, why would you want to even think about doing it? You've got your expertise, and so does he.
Yeah.
It's like a good match, actually.
I mean, it is. And also, like, sometimes he's not the best at doing it either. So that's like,
Okay, well, that's another
that's where
conversation,
love
right?
is. Because we've talked before, you and I, about human design.
Yes.
He's a projector, and so am I.
Ah,
So I really need, like, and my mother lives a couple of houses down. So when I really need something done, she's a generator. And I'll be like, hey, did you really mean it when you said you wanted to pack some boxes? She's like, yeah. And I was like, I've got a project for you. um, but you're right about the whole, like, strategizing, and that really doesn't, I'm curious about how you've seen that work and not work for specifically women, because you really, were saying earlier about how you coach women who are wanting more fulfillment, purpose, right?
Yeah.
They've checked all the boxes. What's I don't want to say, like, the golden key to figuring that out. Like, so what are the tools? Is it art?
It can be.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly one of the ways, because you're allowing yourself to I mean, think about the concepts in art therapy. You're allowing yourself to express things without having to use language.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be surprising what comes out of it. It can be
Mm-hmm.
something that's very pretty, or it can be something that is crazy, wild, black, what just
Mm-hmm.
off the charts,
Mm-hmm.
chaotic. But that's because it's in you and it's asking to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, as I was saying before, a lot of professional women, when they're at that age where their career has gotten to a certain point, the kids are out of the nest, and they've been doing something for so long and playing certain roles for so long, they don't even know who they are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what would they love? They're not even sure, because
Mm-hmm.
they've been for so long doing what was expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
So to be like, when I've done art within a retreat setting or in an event of some kind, one of the things that I find is people judge their efforts
Yeah.
like we do with everything else, right? But especially art is like, people get the heebie-jeebies. I'm not an artist. Well, yes, you are. What did you choose to wear today?
Mm-hmm.
What are you having for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
making creative decisions all the time, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
call it that. It has to be something that is on a canvas with color and paint and markers and whatnot. But once that, and it makes sense because if people are in a professional capacity or even non-professional capacity and they're expected to produce and they're expected to have 5-year plans and have everything organized down to the T, to be able to put that aside even for a little bit is like, I'm not sure if I can do that.
Hmm.
It's just so out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And especially, I mean, I think a lot of what we do is modeled. So if you didn't, I mean,
Yeah.
I had somebody on the podcast not long ago who has a very successful business. And it was really interesting to me because she's young and it happened fast. And I'm like, both of her parents are entrepreneurs,
Ah,
right? And I'm over here like 17 years kicking the can down the road, just like, but I never ever saw entrepreneurship.
yeah.
And so, I think that so frequently it's also what's modeled to us.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good point that you're making. I think what's modeled for people who are in the corporate world is very different from women who are not in a corporate capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a corporate executive, you have to follow orders.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to the board, it's up to the CEO, it's up to so many other people besides you, and you have to jump in order to fulfill those requirements. So you're on this particular track that's very focused, and you're not kind of being, oh, I wonder what would I should do, just kind of
Yeah.
dreamy and letting
Yeah.
things come through. It's got to be this is what they expect. So for people who are entrepreneurs, first of all, it's a pretty risky business.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, you have to be open to creativity. You have to be able to do something that is not part of the routine, that is
Mm.
something that is crazy, right? Entrepreneurs are always testing things. They're always trying it out. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall and
Always.
yeah, so you're kind of open to what else? What else is possible? That's
Yeah.
kind of my favorite mantra that a
Yeah.
friend of mine introduced me to.
What is it?
What else is possible?
Mm.
That and another quote by a coach, which is, given the circumstances, what do you want to create? Takes you out of being a victim or a
Mm-hmm.
hamster on a wheel and saying, okay, what else can we do here? What else can we
Yeah.
turn this into? What other possibilities are there in this moment? And then you are receptive. But if
Yeah.
you're in a position where you have to get something done by a certain period of time, it has to look a certain way, sound a certain way, it's much harder. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why I'll say women in particular, but that's mostly my experience and
Mine too. Yeah.
clients, is that when you're being asked to do something in a very specific way, you do lose track of your own soul, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
because you're always focused on what somebody else wants,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your boss, your kids, your
Yeah.
family.
Right. I mean, I think that hearing you say this, I was in a corporate position, and as I know you were as well.
Mm.
And it's been a long time. And hearing you say all this, I was like, oh, I forgot about all that. Oh, yes, I can see why that I don't want to be there. Like why that isn't a fit for me. Why, when things get hard around the house and Derek and I are like, what should we do here? Should one of us go get a job? I'm just like, not it, you know, because yeah, go ahead.
No, no, it's just that when you know something's not a fit for you, you know. And when I was living in New York, I wonder if we were there at the same time.
Probably.
When I was first went down to New York, I
Mhm.
was working for Home Box Office,
Mhm.
and it was fun. It was in their heyday, and
Yeah.
you
What is the office over on 6th Avenue
yes,
at Bryant Park? Yeah.
yes.
Because I remember they would always have like crazy characters outside.
Hmm.
I was there 2001 to 2012.
Okay, so I had just left.
Okay. Okay.
But so after I was at a home box office for a while, and then I was hired away by a small startup company, and got laid out off as a result about a year later. And at first I thought, oh, this is devastating. I can't hang around with anybody who's already working and they know what they think they know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
doing, right? What am I going to do? And the first thing I did was I got a job in what was then the floral district. So
Oh,
at
I
four
love
in the morning,
flowers.
I would get on my bike and I'd ride down there
Uh-huh.
and I'd spend the day with flowers. Just,
Yes.
I mean, it was, you couldn't go more 180 degrees than that. But it
Oh, fantastic.
just, I realized, okay, I definitely not a suit. I'm
Yeah.
more in the hands-on, work with the material, create something beautiful.
Hmm.
And I think once you're willing to realize that one door closes and another door opens, you
Hmm.
can start to give yourself permission.
That's what I was just hearing was that word permission.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that opens all sorts of doors.
Yeah, I always think of actors, right? Like I'm thinking of some like Joaquin Phoenix, and you hear about sometimes their childhood of like, they lived in a van or they're in a ashram or something like that. And I was always so envious, quite frankly, because I grew up in like a very traditional home type. Both my parents were very type A. Nobody's coloring outside of the lines. And so here I am, 45 years old, and all I want to do is make it messy, get outside the lines. And it's a constant battle of permission
Yeah.
because it really was absolutely never modeled and not encouraged and incredibly discouraged.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, as an artist and a psychotherapist, how somebody overcomes those like early framings.
Hmm. It's another juicy
I
question.
know, not to give you the hard ones.
No, no, it's a wonderful question because it's really all about self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And once I'm willing to see that I want something, at the same time there's some resistance, it's always our comes back down to our thinking. My parents never encouraged it. My school never encouraged it. My job never encouraged it. Or I'm not creative, or I don't have what it takes. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
good enough. All those thoughts that are limiting to us, they get in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that to me is where it starts. What's in the way? In the
Mm-hmm.
way of doing what you really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
husband wouldn't like it. I wouldn't make money.
Mm-hmm.
What would people think of me?
Mm-hmm.
All these stories that we have
Mm-hmm.
circulating in our brain somewhere that get in the way of really seeing that there are more possibilities than we could possibly imagine, and that we have all the resources we need. Even if that resource is, I should call somebody about this because
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. I just, I coach a lot on intuition
Yeah.
and paying attention to those signs,
Yeah.
and that you don't know until you know, right? Like I remember meeting you in Florida and just being like, like, I'll put you in my pocket. Like, don't know where this will lead, but like, there are just certain people's faces
Yeah.
that when I see them, I just know they're for me. I don't really need to know much more.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
But
And
I get it.
yeah, and,
More
and I know
about,
that you know that.
yeah.
And but it's taken practice,
Mm.
right? And there are times that I'm wrong, or I think that somebody's, maybe I put them in the wrong spot in my life, right? Like that can happen. But it's funny, I was just listening to, and I don't listen to podcasts, and we were sharing earlier about how we both have podcasts and we don't listen to podcasts, which is hilarious. um but every now and then I'll listen to like a Mel Robbins one, because she always has like 6 tips, and I'm like, okay, let's hear that. Let me get my strategy brain working, right?
Right.
And she had one recently, and the first tip was to think bigger.
Mm.
And I literally was journaling the next day, being like, I don't think I can think bigger. I mean, this is pretty big, Mel. Like, this feels really, really big. Later that day, we were swimming in Austin with my husband, and I have a gay best friend, and we call him my gay husband. And we're not in a throuple; it's not sexual, but he is the godfather of my kids, and like it's very much the five of us, right?
Mm.
And I met him in New York 2 weeks after 9/11. So like we've just been through like our whole life together, our whole adult life. And they had this crazy idea that was big. And the minute they said it, they always, Derek and Corey are always saying stupid things, and I'm always dismissing them. I'm just like, guys, no, we're not doing that. And as I was about to say it, we're in the middle of Barton Springs. As I'm about to say it, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, actually. And it's huge. And it was exactly what I had been journaling about that morning, that I didn't know how it could be bigger. And it was in that moment, I was like, oh, that's the bigger. That's the bigger I was looking for.
How cool was that?
So cool. And then the second tip that she gives in the podcast is about it has to be fun.
Right.
And the idea that they had is like the most fun thing I could ever imagine. They want to have a show together, the three of us, and call it My Two Housebands. Because we're all in the home interiors business. But we work, Corey is an interior designer, Derek is a general contractor. We don't really know what I do. But I just make it all come together. And so it was just so, and so then it fulfilled those two things off the bat. And isn't that fun?
It's the best.
When you can catch it. When you're like, oh, that's what she was talking about. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't think it.
Yes, absolutely. But, and that's, we all start there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What's worked for me a lot of the time is to say, I wonder what that would look like.
Oh, I love that.
Rather than I have no idea, which is true, but to put it in the form of a question, I wonder. And then your brain starts to look around and say, maybe, no, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily have to have the idea, but somebody else has it and you recognize it.
No, I couldn't have had that idea.
Yeah.
Like it was only when they were together in a car together making fun of me about finding a parking spot and disagreeing about what I was going to do. Derek was right, by the way. He was like, oh, this is exactly what she's going to do. And then Corey was like, oh, we should do a show together. This is hilarious. So I'm curious about how that happened, because you've got a book that I'm so excited to get off this podcast and order and put the link in this podcast, because another thing that's been on my list is to write a book. And then when we spoke earlier, you just made it so easy and so simple and so fun.
Well, that's right.
Because why else do it?
It's not fun. There, you got it. That's why I'm in your pocket and you're in mine.
So tell me a little bit about the book, how it came to be, and how it was to do it. That's what I want to know.
Okay, first of all, I will put in a disclaimer that if you're writing a fiction book or a memoir, that is a lot of work. Because it's coming from your personal history, and there are things that are going to take time to really come out in the way that you want it to. Sure. I was not. I have a little handbook, and only after I published it did I realize there were at least 10 other books called The Happiness Handbook, but the subtitle is what distinguishes one from another.
Okay. And what is your subtitle?
5 Surprising Ways to Cultivate Joy, Reduce Stress, and Build Resilience.
Yeah, those are all so good.
So
you need.
What I had been reading some books that had really triggered some interesting ideas for me. There's a book called Awe, A-W-E, by California, University of California. I think he's at Berkeley, wrote this book, and it's about the everyday awe and wonder. And I was thinking about how true that is, that
It's so
when,
true.
again, another thing, that if you're in a position where you are on that hamster wheel, do you stop? Do you notice that there are dragonflies flying around? Do you
How did you know? That's been out my window this whole podcast. So much so that it's been happening all day and all yesterday. And I have got to Google the spiritual significance of dragonflies because I have a whole swarm of them outside my window in this gorgeous hot pink crepe myrtle
talk
that's
about
blooming late.
intuition, right?
What?
Talk about intuition.
Good job. I know. And we're opposite ends of the country. So like, I know you did not know that what was out my window.
Funny.
Well done.
So to get to your question about how I did it, I had mentioned to you earlier that I took a 7-day book challenge, and it was terrific because they gave you every step of the way how to write it. They gave you the option to use a free formatting service called Readsy, and they also gave you all the directions on how you create a manuscript, put it up on Readsy to format it, and then how you put it up onto Kindle. So you design a cover and the back cover and make room for the ISBN number, and then you have a little blurb on Amazon with your books about what the book is about. And it was just really fun until it was about day 14. And this is a 7-day book challenge, but you were okay if you pushed it a bit.
Yeah.
My husband was just recovering from a full knee replacement, so I couldn't do it in 7 days. But I got to the 14th day. I thought, darn it, I've got to get this done. So, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, I'm trying to tweak things. It won't work. There's something wrong with the cover. Have to go over to Canva and play with that a little bit. And then I had to call a friend of mine in California and say, do you know how to make this work? At 11:45, I hit the publish button on Kindle because I just couldn't stand it if it would go another day longer.
Right. So when you hear about people taking years to write books, you're like, not me.
Well, again, if it was a fiction
different
book, of course, or a memoir or something where you're drawing from a lot of sources,
Sure.
it's much more time consuming. But if, like, this is a handbook, these are the things that work best if you're really looking to find more happiness in your life, whether it's understanding how your thoughts get in the way of your happiness, whether it's creativity, understanding your energy and how your energy affects your ability to be happy, as well as play, and the kinds of things that we don't give ourselves any time for anymore. And yet, if you're on your deathbed, you don't want to look back and say, I never made the time to appreciate this or wander aimlessly, the things that make us human and connect us to the rest of the world. If we don't do that, we're just this isolated little being, traveling down the river of life, and what have we got? We've got accomplishments, achievements, stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody at the end is counting their money and saying, I have all this stuff and now I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Is that worth it? Is that all that you really accomplished in your life, was more stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. I mean, I shared with you that my dad has Alzheimer's and he's 88. And so his memories are very specific, right? Like he remembers everything up until a certain point.
Yeah.
And he takes no medicine.
Wow.
And is incredibly healthy. And I believe it's because he's really happy. Even right now, in a nursing home with a bunch of guys, he's never been without a woman in his life. That was a little tricky that first month. He's in about week 7 right now. So that first month was hard, but he's found his group. He's got these guys that he, plays cards with. He knows none of their names. He spends all day long with them. I think none of them know each other's names, or at least not enough to remember. They're playing games that I know my dad has never played in his life. So I have no idea what that's like, if he's playing the actual game of spades or not. Who cares? And he tells me every time I see him, he's like, I'm really happy here. Thank you for finding this place for me. I'm going to live out my days here.
Wow.
I'm happy here. You've done a good job.
Wow. You couldn't ask for anything better than that, could you?
No. And sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes he calls and wants a plane ticket to go home. And you know what I mean? Like that happens. But on one hand, I can count it, it's infrequent. But I believe that his physical health is tied to the fact that his emotional and mental health
Mm-hmm.
is very strong. That he's very at peace with his life.
That is so fortunate, first of all. That was the first thing that I was thinking of. Wow.
Yeah.
To be at that age in that condition and have that attitude. Because happiness to me is really more like an umbrella.
Okay, say
Because
more.
it's well-being, it's really well-being, it's peace of mind, it's feeling grounded. So we may not be laughing and joking and being silly and balloons and
Right.
confetti, but we kind of know deep in ourselves that it's okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get
Happiness to me is also like it's peace. What you're describing is like peace.
yeah.
And quite frankly, I think a lot of it is like faith that it's not my job to know everything. It's not my job to have all the answers.
Right.
I'm really here to just discover as I go
Yeah.
what feels aligned
Yeah.
at this moment, because it will change, right? Like there are times for pushing and the achievement and all of that. And there are other times that, a nap.
Yeah.
Puttering.
Right. Doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a puzzle. Reading a book.
I mean, you're literally in my house right now, Nina. We just got into puzzles in my family yesterday. My 5-year-old spent the weekend with his grandmother, not my mom, Derek's mom, and she loves puzzles. And Jack is so happy. He's 5 years old. He wants a 500-piece puzzle.
Holy smokes.
I'm like, I ordered a 64 one for when he comes home from school here shortly. And he's already told me it's for little babies. Like, what would I do with this puzzle, Mom? But yeah, puzzles. I just drank the Kool-Aid on puzzles.
Well, don't you find it true that when you're working on a puzzle, your mind gets quiet?
Yes.
And that's one of the beauties of it, aside from being able to match shapes and sizes, is your mind, you're not thinking about
nothing.
The laundry or groceries or dinner. You're just completely present. And that's part of being happy, I think. You're here, you're present, your feet are in the ground, you can smell the roses, you can enjoy your lemonade, you can appreciate other people because you're here and we're given so much and we hardly notice. I mean, the sky is blue, the birds are singing, somebody's got a picture of a robin's nest with 4 beautiful blue eggs. All of the tiny things that, to me, go back to that book that I mentioned earlier, Awe, about everyday wonder, that when you open up to that kind of thing, your world changes. It becomes really gorgeous. It doesn't mean that the bad things are not happening anymore. Just read the paper. But you start to develop the resources to balance the not so nice news with the ever-present reality of the gifts, everything, the sunlight, food we have, the friends we have, the cats or dogs that we have, and everything. I'm coming over to your house.
I know. They're so fun.
I feel like I'm already there.
I know, right? No, but it really is. It's about being present. I know when I started into the life coaching world in 2008, it was, through landmark education, it was all very like cerebral, right?
Yeah.
And analytical and, bit formulaic. And that was what led me to yoga. Because that was when I was like, oh, now I can take these concepts and they're in my body now.
Oh, nice.
Right. So I would never journal without also going for a walk in nature, without also, I do transcendental meditation, without like all of those things.
Yeah.
And you just want more of those things because it feels so good, because it's peaceful in those places.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're reminding me of something that I think is relevant to everything that you're saying, is that when I was studying and practicing energy medicine, the bottom line is it's all about flow. It's all about the
100%.
energy.
Yeah.
Whether it's writing a business plan or living your life, it's the same. And anytime the flow of energy is blocked,
Yeah.
then we're limited in some way or another, whether it's blocked physically or blocked mentally.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is about flow.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the Zen traditions, that everything, the Japanese lifestyle is all about going with the flow and not
Mm-hmm.
resisting and not trying to
Mm-hmm.
control the river.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that this latest experience in my life with my father has expedited my learning,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because every day it would be my sister called it a hellscape of like what's happening. And all we could anchor into is dad safe. And as long as that answer was yes, all the rest was just chatter and distraction, right? And we just would keep working. And my sister is a, practicing Buddhist and a psychotherapist. And then I'm a, life coach. And so it was really great practice for things that we teach our clients that then we needed to remind one another of, right? When she would spin out, I'm like, but and dad's safe. And you're not doing this alone, I'm here. And vice versa. She would do that with me. And it really helped the experience. Not that it wasn't hard and not that we didn't resist it at times, but I also could very much see the beauty in the process that brought us closer together. I mean, there were so many things that have happened as a result of this bad news or whatever you want to,
Mhm.
call it.
Yeah. And I think that happens more often than not if
Mm,
we're open to it.
yes. Yes.
We're
It's what
open.
you're paying attention to.
That's right. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. And what you
Mm-hmm.
care about. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that so many of us get to a certain age and we don't even know what we care about anymore,
Yeah.
because we've been, as I was saying earlier, been so focused on somebody else's desires and expectations, that to keep bringing ourselves back to what's really important here. And
Yeah.
what you're sharing is a perfect example of that. What is really important here?
Well, and it's been a really good guide because it would be easy for me to go down the rabbit hole of like, now my dad's here and I have to do all these things. And then I'm like, no, I don't.
Right.
He has 24-hour nursing care. They check on him every 2 hours.
Wow.
And we are paying for that. Use it. And one of the best things that happened is that shortly after he went there, I went to England for a week. And I had to let go of going every day and being. And so now this week is the first week that I've been back. And it's like, oh, everything's fine.
Mm.
We went to pick him up to take him somewhere and he didn't want to go because he was playing dominoes with his little gang of like card buddies.
That's so
It was
great.
so good.
Wow. That's wonderful.
And that wasn't going to happen if I hadn't left.
That's right.
If I'd been there,
Hovering.
hovering,
You're
exactly.
like a helicopter parent, but
Right.
for your father.
Exactly. Right? Like I was there like doing all these things and then I just looked around and I was like, I don't see anybody else checking on their dads here.
That says a lot about you, though, and something about them, but your commitment to making.
Well, I think a lot of it really is distance. Like a lot of people, at the VA, like you just don't live in the town where
Right.
you get in.
Right.
And we are again, I paid attention to the flow.
And isn't that what intuition is about?
That's all it was. A girl at a jump park mentioned to me that her dad was in the VA, and I just pulled the thread.
That's
I
it.
was like, my dad was a Marine. Let's go, and then, so it's just about like, if you pay attention, it's all right there.
Yeah. Yes.
Like somebody made me text you and say like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come be on this podcast? And then you were talking about color. Would you show up your art journal before we wrap it up?
Oh, sure.
Because I'm so obsessed with color right now. I mean, I always am, but I especially am designing a house right now. And you said this really great phrase earlier. Would you say it again about like, what is it? You could just eat up, that you just want to eat color?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's it right there. If I could eat the paint.
Yeah.
I would.
My kids probably will. So I'll call you about that later.
Yeah. They say washable crayons and paint, but they don't say edible.
Yeah, no.
That is
Certain
the
that we'll
problem.
find out. I mean,
So that was one of the
I love
pieces
that.
that I did. And it, it was under an hour. Maybe it was 45 minutes that I was playing with it.
Yeah.
And there's another page of it.
Oh, I love that one.
And then this was just pieces of paper, torn paper that I glued down.
I mean, this is so fun.
It is.
Yeah.
The more fun we have, the happier we are.
That's the perfect place. The more fun we have, the happier we are.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Everybody, you can check out Nina and all that she has to offer at ninalockwood.com. It'll be in the notes below. And I know that you have an art journal experience coming up in July.
Yep.
So be on her mailing list for that. I'm really excited about that. I'm nervous because I don't identify as an artist. So I am very much in the camp of who you were describing.
Oh, good. Because it isn't for artists. It isn't about becoming a famous artist. It's
well, thank God.
Right? It's just being in the flow, letting yourself be a channel and seeing what happens.
Oh, I love that.
In a very safe, nurturing environment and fun environment.
Yeah. Well, and good words to just let it always be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And then you guys can find everything podcast related, journaling related, all the things at annakmorris.com. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you as we expand in the world. What is it that we want? Do we believe that we can have it all? I hope this episode gave you some insights and some things to think about, and most importantly, some actions to go and take in your own life. If one of those actions is reaching out to me, I'm so thrilled and honored. You can always find me on my website, annakmorris.com, and you can always send me an email, hello@annakmorris.com. DM, texting, if you have my number, any of that is great too, and I would love to be in touch with you and help you have it all. I love you, and thank you so much for being here.